Next issue, even more gruesome than this, is, you see, when we prepare the cells from rabbit, what happens? A rabbit pregnancy incident, it takes 30-31 days. 1 to 2 days before the scheduled delivery date, you take the rabbit female, you euthanize her, in other words, by standard means approved in the world. Then you open up the belly, you open up the uterus, you take out the amniotic sac inside which all the fetuses and the placentas are. You pass them through the window into the sterile environment of the laboratory, okay? Now, there it is open, there the sac is opened up and all of the fetuses and separate placentas are taken out and immediately processed, and so on and so forth. So in reality, it takes usually about 5 minutes before you start to collect all the organs that you need for preparation, see? Now, but when you open up the cavity, the first step is always inspection. You must make sure that this fetus is indeed healthy, which usually is, but if it is not, it's mercilessly thrown away, okay? If it's deformed or there may be some genetic issues, etc., etc., there is no dilly-dallying. You just throw the fetus away. And now, but what is important is you open up the body. What do you see? The heart is still pumping, and blood is pink, full of oxygen. So every single organ that you obtain under such circumstances, of course, contains perfectly healthy cells. And that is what you are starting when you are doing your culturing, because that is the first step of actually manufacturing or the preparatory process, okay? Now, in human being, it is unfortunately not so, because, you see, as you already said before, we do not use embryos for preparation. And in human pregnancy, which takes 9 months and 10 days, right? The first 2 months is embryonic stage of development. You cannot use the usually the material from the abortions for preparation of cells because it is still in embryonic stage. Only the later, the last month of the before, as you know, the 3 months is cut off for abortions. In most of the civilized world, okay, US likewise. So the point is, you in reality have to get cells from so-called second trimester, second 3 months of the pregnancy. Now, and that is completely different cup of tea, because you cannot use those scraping or any other techniques. You have to induce birth by whatever means. It is possible to do. And so the fetus, that is past 3 months has to come out naturally. And they do. But the problem is it takes hours. So when you get that fetus, out, it very often looks truly like seriously dead, And you can imagine the quality of the cells in all of those organs you are going to collect and use, that is truly unpredictable. Now, and that was the reason why in Soviet Union, where they did not have much of a problem with abortions, in the old days and so on and so forth, they simply came to the decision that this human fetal cell transplantation stinks. It is too much work, and a very small quantity of fetus is obtainable, so we shall switch to the animal fetal cell transplantation. And Soviets were the first, that started with the human fetal cell transplantation in the world. The first patient treated was in 1978. This is published, and the publication is known, in the Western world in translation. All right, but at the same time, very soon they found out the trouble, with the collection of the human fetuses, so they switched to the animals, and they were the ones who actually, proved to themselves, to their satisfaction, that in reality there is no difference in the quality of the results whether you use human or animal fetal cells. And I must say they started with cattle, then went to pigs, and eventually they were the ones who discovered the rabbits, to be the most suitable animal from the in the animal kingdom. In terms of explaining about these therapies, which are partially or completely fraudulent, let's first say a word about umbilical cord blood stem cell transplantation, which in reality, is not much different than peripheral blood stem cell transplantation. Now, this therapeutic method has popped up, probably about 10 years ago, and in reality, this one cannot be declared fraudulent. Now, but what is the problem with this? You see, our body, as body of all the mammals, is built out of 200 to 220 types of cells. And these cell types are uniform in nature, regardless, which animal are we talking about. Now, from a human fetus or animal fetus, you can obtain as many as 200 to 220 cell types. I have to state that this number 200 to 220 is the scientific hypothesis. Okay, no one has proven that actually there are so many cells. And in terms of the preparation, in preparing the cells, by request of different physicians, from all over the world, up until now we have prepared cells of cell transplants of 90 cell types. Why not more? Because medicine does not know what these other 110 cell types are, and even if they are known, nobody knows what is the purpose in the body. So as a result of it, physician of course will not think about using type of cell for implantation when he doesn't know what is that cell in the body for. Obviously there has to be some logic here, and so on and so forth. Now, but the key item is that this is uniform in nature. One more time, okay? Now, umbilical cord blood regretfully contains only cells of two cell types of hematopoietic, meaning the blood cells, from which you can make also cells of the immune system. Okay, and number two is certain small quantity of a tissue in the body, very important, called mesenchyme. That's all, see. And as a result of it, you cannot tell the patient, listen, umbilical cord blood stem cell transplantation will, cure all the problem under the sun. And the fraud comes when the claims are made that the umbilical cord blood, or contains so-called universal cells. Now, that is not true. There is no known universal cell in the body. That's a creation of of a mind, or maybe the advertising writers from Madison Avenue, but it doesn't exist in nature. In our development, even in the embryonic stage, we cannot say this is universal cell, because the cells are starting to divide, and multiply, but there is no universal cell. The one cell from which every other cell is made, that is, conception of God, but it doesn't exist in nature. See, now, and this is what is the problem with the, with the umbilical cord, cell transplantation. You see, this is all based on an unfortunate situation. See, the fact that a human body and animal body or a body of mammals are made of 200 to 220 cell types is based on a concept of principle of organospecificity. Oddly enough, when you go into German medical publications, as far back as 1950, they will speak about principle of organospecificity. When you go to the Russian articles, the same thing. When you go to any English article to this date, the principle of organospecificity is not spoken about. What does it mean? It means basically principle of organospecificity, that let's say the main cell of our liver is hepatoblast. That is the key cell from which the whole liver is built. There are of course 60 other cell types in it. But the key one, which is doing all the job, of the key metabolic organ of the body, is hepatoblast. Now, you can take hepatoblast from any animal, particularly from the fetal stage, and implant it in any one of you, and there shall be no reaction, because your body will recognize that hepatoblast from rabbit or from any other animal as your own. Even when you talk about antigenicity, you see, there is a cross antigenicity between hepatoblasts from the entire animal kingdom. So that is the reason why you don't expect, any allergic reaction. Even we take all kind of additional precautions to make sure that no such a thing is, you see. And that is the reason why there is no need to use immunosuppression, which, for example, is still being enforced in the United States. And the reason why, they talk about adult autologous stem cell transplantation is because if you take cells from your own body and they are reimplanted in your body, then of course there should not be a reaction. But this is not necessary to go that way. You can take the cells from the rabbit fetus and, after standard preparation and implant them in patient, and there will be no reactions either.